Hello everyone, welcome to yet another episode of Polity Quick Revision series. In this video, we'll specifically talk about the Central Council of Ministers. So here we'll talk about the composition of Central Council of Ministers. We'll talk about their mode of appointment. We'll also take a look at the comparison between the Central Council of Ministers with that of the cabinet ministers and many such things. Finally, we'll also take a look at some interesting questions from this particular topic. So without any further delay, let's get started. So Council of Ministers, in my opinion, most of these things will be something that you already know, because Council of Ministers, okay, it is going to be partly from your Chief Minister chapter, it is going to be partly from Governor's chapter, okay, it is going to be partly from, chapters here and there, right? But let's try to round it up. What is Article 74? We read this, right? There shall be a Council of Ministers with the Prime Minister and the head at the head to aid and advise the President, who shall, in the exercise of his functions, act in accordance with such advice, right? Now, the President may require the Council of Ministers to reconsider such advice, and the President shall act in accordance with the advice tendered after such reconsideration. Now, this is advice by the executive. Now, what about the President's role? Okay, I'm just going a little, okay, tangential right now, okay? President, this is executive. Executive sort of, you're saying to the executive, please reconsider. If I say to the legislature to reconsider, what was it that we have studied? Can you link this to anything from our past couple of lectures? Lok Sabha passes a bill.
The President
Go ahead,
will
please.
return the bill for the reconsideration.
President can return the bill, okay, by, so that is an option that the President has, so the legislature probably will have to take a look at it. And having to pass that is called what kind of veto? If that reconsidered advice comes back to him?
A suspensive veto.
But wonderful again, Aishwarya. Now, if the President, okay, not Indian President, let us say some other President, okay, the reconsidered sort of bill is passed not with the same majority, but with a higher majority than, it was passed initially, okay, and only then, he is bound by that bill again to approve that bill. Then what kind of veto will that be?
Qualified veto.
Okay, excellent. Okay, very good memory you have, or you're probably revising a lot more. Okay, so great job. Okay, and the advice tendered by the ministers to the President shall not be inquired into by any court. Okay, now other provisions regarding the Council of Ministers. So the Prime Minister shall be appointed by the President. See, this was a question that we had in the previous one, in which I just tweeted it a little bit, in which we said that the Prime Minister is the one appointing. No, it is not the Prime Minister appointing, but it is appointed by the President, but on the advice of the Prime Minister. Right, the total number of ministers, including the minister, the Prime Minister, the supreme guy, right, it shall not exceed 15%. It shall not exceed 15% of the total strength of the Lok Sabha. Does that make sense? So 15%. So if it is Lok Sabha, like what is 15% of your Lok Sabha? How big of it? How big this thing can you have it?
Around 75.
Around 75. Okay. I think if it's 543, it's somewhere around 80. Okay, so you can have around 80. So who comes under your Central Council of Ministers? Right? Is it your minister? Is it a cabinet guy? Is it a Council of Minister? As in, is it the main minister? Is it a Minister of State? Is it a Parliament Secretary? Is it a So those are other things that we can take a look at. Okay, and this is not something that was initially there. The provision was added by the 91st Amendment Act of 2003. Can anybody give me a reason why you need this sort of limit? Why would they bring such a limit? And try to explain to me in polity terms. Take a look at this. Executive. India mein, this is the system, right? You have an executive and then you have the legislature. Is this a system? Executive and legislature are not completely sort of independent. Okay, not like in a presidential system. Now, there are some members in the political party who are executive. And who are those members? It is going to be your PM plus your Council of Ministers. That is going to be part of your executive. The rest of them have this job of checks and balances. Necessarily, it means, you sit in What is the job of the legislature? Okay, to make bills, debate bills, discuss bills. Okay, try to, and you have these joint sitting, not joint sitting, sorry, what is that? Select committees, where you try to sort of improve upon a particular bill. You may, suggest some amendments. Okay, these sort of things you want to do. So the legislature has a job of keeping executive accountable. Okay, that is our system of checks and balances. Now, so hence what you can do is that, let us say that the legislature is becoming too, sort of loud. Okay, it's becoming, it's like questioning me. And let us say that we are the executive, but we have other members who are the legislature. What we could possibly do is that, hey, I'll give you a position in executive. Okay, come on over. Okay, provided, you don't like sort of, raise too many questions, or, keep discussing and sort of debating all of these. What happens? The problem is, then you will have no sort of accountability. Nobody's going to want to question the executive, or because you're part of the executive itself, the legislature, the rest of the body. So that is why if you see Lok Sabha mein or Rajya Sabha, if you watch those channels, you will see, in fact, the system will be something like this. You have the speaker who sits here, there'll be like somebody here, there'll be somebody here, forget that, again there'll be a table here, it's called a well. Okay, and then you have all the way till here, let's say this entire part is going to be your ruling party. Okay, and this particular portion, this little portion here, you will have your executive. Okay, and everybody else, in and around this area. Okay, and their job is to keep accountability. So if right, the sessions are going on, and when you have the sessions, what exactly happens? What is their particular role? So you have to play the role, okay, in legislature. Okay, hold the executive accountable for any omissions and commissions, and that is your job. So I don't know if you guys will remember this thing, or you probably don't remember this. There was a case in, I think it was Delhi High Court, Supreme Court, I'm not sure. One of those things about AAP. AAP ministry, sorry, AAP is in Delhi, right? So AAP, do you know in Delhi how many seats are there? They have a total of 70 seats. And I don't remember exactly. They had, they're allowed to have around 7 council of ministers, around 10%. It's different for, in the state, okay, and 15% for your center. Now, in that, what they had done is that they had some parliamentary secretaries, some persons, in council of ministers or related sort of executive role, they had moved them into executive. Okay, now the thing is, already AAP had 60 plus seats. Okay, I think it was 63, 65, something like this. Okay, extremely high number. Okay, as it is, there is very little. In fact, I think it was 67 at that point. Okay, there were like some 3 BJP MLAs. Now, what will 3 members from the opposition? But they did, okay, they did make a lot of noise, as they should, right? As they should. But what was done is that a number of AAP MLAs, they were given some position called a parliamentary secretary. So basically, they were making them part of the executive. So that made the executive too big. Okay, it was seen as a way to sort of circumvent this sort of a limit. And then the case actually went to your, and I'm not remembering finally which court it had gone to. But the thing was, the election commission had recommended to the president to disqualify around 20 of their MLAs for being in this parliament secretary kind of position. The technical thing is that you're holding an office of profit, which is your parliament secretary. Okay, that is that. So again, I'm trying to connect some things for you so that you'll remember. Some of you may remember, some of you, if you follow Delhi. Okay, a member of either House of the Parliament belonging to any political party who is disqualified on the ground of defection shall also be disqualified to be appointed as a minister. So what does that mean? Somebody who is disqualified for being or on the ground of defection. You've defected from the party that you're part of, and it has been approved. And then what happens is that you're disqualified as a minister. Okay, minister shall hold office during the pressure of the president. Again, do not read this out of context. Okay, collective responsibility to the Lok Sabha, and if I talk about state, then it is to the assembly. The president shall administer oaths, and the minister is not a member of the parliament for 6 consecutive months. So by when does Didi have to show that she is the she's going to be elected somehow as a chief minister? You have a total period of 6 months. Okay, salaries, allowances, ministers determined by the parliament. So I hope that is sort of clear. Okay, conduct of business, all executive action in the government. Okay, it is to be taken in the name of the president, some formalities. Okay. Okay, duties of the Prime Minister. Okay, it shall be the duties of the Prime Minister. We've seen this thing, right? But vis-a-vis the Council of Ministers to communicate to the President all the decisions of the Council of Ministers regarding the administration. So now you started to see, right? Again and again and again, we see the same sort of points. So by the time you're done with all of these chapters, all of these points should be reinforced quite well with you. Okay, and generally these questions are easy. Okay, it is just about like how exactly it is placed in terms of the wording. Okay, and even the options that you will see in the exam will be exactly like this. Polity is relatively easy. Okay, it is relatively easy, but the only thing is that you have to invest some time in it. If it is directly proportional, honestly. Okay, polity score is directly proportional to, I don't want to say number of hours alone, but let's say number of hours invested into your Laxmikanth. Directly proportional. Okay, to furnish such information relating to administration, okay, the president to submit for the consideration of the Council of Ministers, right? Quite straightforward. By now, I don't think you will be going wrong at this. Now, can you tell me one thing? I am part of the Council of Ministers. If, and so are you, let us just say, what about our advice? Is the president sort of bound by it? Okay, now that is another aspect. So let's take a look at that particular aspect as well. Article so and so provides for the Council of Ministers with the Prime Minister at the head to aid and advise. Okay, the 42nd and 44th Amendment. So 42nd was your 1976. Okay, and 44th Amendment, okay, have made the advice binding on the President. So now have I answered the question that I just posed to you? The nature of advice tendered by the ministers to the President again cannot be inquired into by any court. Okay, the provision emphasizes the intimate and confidential relationship between the presidents and the ministers. Okay, let's take a look. Some Supreme Court cases. The Supreme Court held that even after the dissolution of the Lok Sabha, the Council of Ministers does not cease to hold office. And the reason for this thing is that the president will be there and he cannot exercise his executive power without the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. Right? So even after, the dissolution, the president's moves are the Council of Minister and this one. So again, that's why we have these institutions like your Election Commission, all of that, who will ensure that there is free and fair elections. A new sort of, a body will be elected and they will come into power and they will be ruling. So we have all of these systems. Once you get a hold of this entire Laxmikanth book, you will understand this, how this checks and balance system works, why somebody, so these sort of aspects will be quite clear to you. Any questions about appointment ministers? Do we even have to go through this? Can I appoint a person who has not been elected or who has lost the election?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And by what time do we have to find a way for him or her to sort of become part of the assembly?
Within 6 months.
Does it have to be only the assembly? So the right word should be, you should correct me like that, okay? The legislature. Okay, basically what I mean, upper house or lower house. So even in your options, look for these subtleties. Okay, 6 months was the right answer, but my question was, I did not say legislature, I had said assembly. Okay. Okay, and a minister who is a member of one house of the parliament has the right to speak and take part in the proceedings of the other house also, but he can vote only in the house in which he is a member. So meaning, when Manmohan Singh, when he was part of Rajya Sabha, okay, the rest of the sentence I'm going to read, he has the right to speak and to take part in the proceedings of the other house, which is your Lok Sabha. Okay, and let us say that we have to vote on this, bill today. Do I get to vote while I speak and I participate in the proceedings? I've debated, I've showcased why this sort of bill is important, why the features are good, okay, why no need for any amendments. Now it's time to vote. Do I get to vote?
No.
I will get to vote in Rajya Sabha, right? I will get to vote in Rajya Sabha. Okay, I hope that is very, very clear. There is something called collective responsibility and there is something called your individual responsibility. Now that we've spoken about this collective responsibility using that example of social media intermediary rules, right? New IT rules, in short. So the fundamental principle here, okay, about your parliamentary system of government is the principle of collective responsibility. Okay, Article 75 or whatever article. Okay, so it clearly states that the Council of Ministers, okay, that council is collectively responsible to whom? To the Lok Sabha. Let me underline the important statement. Whatever I'm underlining, please do sort of underline in your textbook as well. Okay, so it'll be easier because the next time you're revisiting this, what are the key terms to take a look at, what are the most important sentences. So this means that the ministers own joint responsibility to the Lok Sabha for their acts of omission and commission. Okay, so that is why I said you swim or sink together. Okay, now two things. The Prime Minister, if unhappy, is going to remove a minister. Okay, but let us say there is a no confidence motion or something like that. In that, this is by the opposition. This is by the rest of the representatives. When they remove, by showing no confidence here, or the executives are unable to sort of prove their confidence, what happens is entire council of ministers are going to be removed. Okay, it does not matter. So it cannot be that they're debating, hey, this person has done an absolutely great job, but however these three have not performed, so we want to sort of move these guys out. No, that's not how it works. This entire council is working together. Okay, just that they have sort of decided to divide the responsibility, right? How is that? So for instance, let us say, just take an example of cricket, right? We're all together in this, we win or lose together. Okay, but that does not mean that everybody can bat, everybody can bowl. Okay, everybody can, I mean, that is, West Indies team is an exception. But apart from that, most of the teams, you'll have proper batsmen. Okay, you'll have one all-rounder, you'll have some pace bowlers, you'll have some spin bowlers, right? So that is how it is. Okay, so here you do not talk about one particular minister. In no confidence motion, if you want to remove, it's a council of minister as a whole. It's a collective responsibility, except for when the PM wants to remove somebody, then it's just because we talked about it, right? The minister, the person that he thinks or she thinks is best suited to that particular role, and the person that the PM is comfortable working with. Okay, generally all PMs will have a smaller, have you guys heard of the term cabinet? It's not the council of ministers, but the most important sort of council of ministers you will have. Okay, this could be your defense ministry guy, it will be your finance ministry person, it'll be your home ministry, right? So some ones, in fact, like Indira Gandhi also had her own sort of small little coterie. No, so that is your cabinet. Isme also you will have like certain members who are like sort of key here. So there is something called kitchen cabinet. Have you guys heard of this? Kitchen cabinet is even a smaller subset of your cabinet, and who sort of take some important sort of just there's a chapter called cabinet committees. I think in your book it comes as a separate chapter, and it is there in your council of ministers also. You will notice that there are certain cabinet committees, and how this kitchen cabinet is from your central council of ministers chapter. Okay, so for instance, if it's Narendra Modi, who will be the first person in his kitchen cabinet?
Home Minister.
Sorry.
Home Minister.
Basically, I mean, I wouldn't say Home Minister, I would just say Amit Shah. If Amit Shah's portfolio tomorrow changes to something else, again, he will be part of the kitchen cabinet, because, it is about that trust issue. They seem to be working well together, right? Again, now each minister will have certain different sort of each prime minister will have his own small little coterie. Okay, so that is that. So the Central Council of Ministers can advise the President to dissolve the Lok Sabha on the ground that the House does not represent the views of the electorate faithfully and call for fresh elections. The President may not oblige the Council of Ministers that has sort of lost the confidence of the Lok Sabha. Same things that we have seen before. Okay, but the whole idea about collective responsibility is that we swim or we sink together. Okay, some interesting aspects here. For instance, if you guys read there are two books of Ramchandra Guha. One of them is Makers of Modern India. I'm not sure where I've read this. And then there's another book about India since independence, I guess, or India after Gandhi. I think that's the name of the book. So in that, they talk about this episode in which in the 1950s, there were a lot of issues between our founding fathers, Nehru and Ambedkar. And it was regarding the Hindu Code Bill, right? Hindu Code Bill. Do you guys know about this episode? Did you guys study this in history?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you know it, right? Yeah, so during that time, they did not see eye to eye. And Ambedkar felt the Hindu reforms, and he was not adequately supported in his sort of, in his attempt to sort of reform the religion properly. Okay, because even Nehru was like, let us not sort of anger certain, conservative members of this electorate, okay, because this could have some repercussions electorally, okay, and he was advised by, certain other members. So that is what. So the whole episode here, okay, and in fact, Ambedkar, see, he had resigned because of the differences with his colleagues on the Hindu Code Bill in 1953. I believe he was the law minister or something like that, and then he had resigned. And he had mentioned that he was not happy with not getting adequate support. Okay, so if a minister disagrees with the cabinet decision and is not prepared to defend it, okay, because again, sink or swim, right? Sink or swim together. Sorry, swim or sink together. So we may have heated debates. Okay, Rahul might be like, hey, the government has like perfect, okay, this is the right move. And then one of you might be like, no, this is awful, this is about privacy, it's too much interference by the government should, whatever it is. But eventually, let us say you guys all take a vote and 51% of you have voted for what? That that we're going to take this one particular stand, okay, that we are going to try to have this new rule. Okay, and if the PM is okay with this particular thing as well, then what has happened, even the ones who were against Rahul and his views, okay, are going to sort of defend this tooth and nail, right? And there is another person, okay, Arif Muhammad. He generally comes on NDTV, and he was sort of against this Muslim women protection. In the 1980s, there was this not Shah Bano case, and they sort of, there were some reform movements. There was some reform that was that had taken place. The Supreme Court had decided something. The Parliament decided to not, it gave some protection to that particular community, and so basically they sort of nullified the reform moves. Okay, it had to dealt with alimony payments. Okay, like in case you get divorced, you're supposed to pay to the divorced member a certain amount of money for their upkeep and certain other, like this one. So during that time period. Examples help you remember things better unless you have a very, very good memory anyway. Okay, some of you have. I'm not that gifted. Okay, so I use examples quite not that great. You guys know this thing, right? I think I've covered this in this class as well. It's not my mandate here, but generally, and see, basically, my entire goal is to ensure that if I've studied something, in my school days, I was taught this superstition, okay, that in case you leave your book open. Okay, so this is the pages. Okay, if you leave this open on your table and then you leave, okay, it'll all fly away. Okay, from your memory, it's all going to be gone. So I don't know who taught me this, or when I heard this thing, but even from that time period, I ensure that I do not leave a book that is open. Right, I close it to ensure that I've put in so much mazduri kiya hai. I don't want to sort of lose that, so I do this. So essentially my whole target is ensure that this sort of a thing does not happen to me. This is my memory recollection. So what do you want to do? It is all about this. Jaldi, and then another day. Okay, as it starts coming down, you keep ensuring that you revisit. And so this might be one day, this might be after like 3 days, and this might be the 7th day. Okay, and so on and so forth, 14th day. Okay, so this is like a lot of research study that is there. Okay, but unfortunately what happens is that most of the students who study for prelims, they study a lot, but however, how to study to bolte hain, right? But how to study, generally nobody gives you this sort of a feedback. So really try to employ this. Okay, it is very, very beneficial. Okay, very, very beneficial. A lot of topics you will be like an exam array, or I had studied this. Okay, but now I'm unable to recall. Okay, you will feel this. However, if you're going to do this sort of a method, at least you can say that whatever I've studied really well. Your strike rate will improve. Okay, strike rate will improve. Okay, it's all about good study habits here. Okay, good study habits and work ethic. Study habits and work ethic. Okay, both of these things will help you. Okay, they will help you a lot. Okay. So Article 75 also contains the principle of individual responsibility. So it states that the ministers hold office during the pressure of the president. We have seen this thing, which means that the president can remove a minister even at a time when the Council of Ministers enjoys the confidence of the Lok Sabha. However, the president removes the minister only on the advice of the prime minister. Okay, so in that context, of course, you remember it. So the pleasure of the president means when it is being advised by the prime minister. So if there is a difference of opinion, dissatisfaction with the performance of a minister, no, I don't know. Okay, and we don't know. Okay, but a lot of people were sort of removed from the ministry and new members have come in, new faces have come in. Okay, you can take the example of the center's recent reshuffle. Okay, that's fine. Okay, in that, what has happened? Maybe there's a difference of opinion, dissatisfaction with the performance of a particular minister. Okay, and the prime minister can ask him or her to resign. Okay, or advise the president to sort of dismiss him. By exercising this power, the prime minister can ensure realization of the rule of collective responsibility, so that whoever is on board is totally on board. Okay, who's ready to sort of defend this collective responsibility. Okay, and also collective responsibility to deliver results. Deliver results. Deliver results. Okay, so collective responsibility can be achieved only through instrumentality of the prime minister. Prime minister is the main guy in between the governor and the council of ministers, right? Okay, so collective responsibility is also there. Your also have your individual sort of responsibility. So what are the roles of the cabinet? So you guys know, right? So all of these guys are your executive. Executive has a particular role. Okay, all of the executives have a particular role that they have to play. Okay, there is an executive role. So these are the institutions, these are the political institutions. Legislature, you have your executive. So, supreme executive authority of the central government, central administration is sort of managed by them. It's an advisory body to the president or to the governor, right? It deals with foreign policies and foreign affairs. Obviously, at this point, the governor is not going to have. Just a quick sort of a difference between the Council of Ministers and the cabinet. See, Council of Ministers is 60, 70. It's a bigger sort of a bunch. But then in your cabinet, you have much smaller numbers, right? Every time meeting with 60 ministers, 70 ministers, 80 ministers is going to be harder. But then the more important Council of Ministers are going to be part of your cabinet, right? Obviously, your Amit Shah is going to be part of it. Rajnath Singh is going to be part of it. And there might be some more sort of familiar faces, right? In case you've been following. Now, this involves 3 different categories, okay? One is, okay, your cabinet ministers, your ministers of state, and your deputy ministers. Okay, and it does not meet as a body to transact. Okay, it has no sort of collective functions. It is not because it's a much larger group. But however, the cabinet guys tend to keep meeting. Okay, they tend to sort of keep meeting. It includes the cabinet ministers only, and this is part of the Council of Ministers, right? So I hope that is sort of clear. Now, Council of Ministers is what is supposed to be powerful, right? But in theory, they are, okay, because you have to have a minister for all. There are some ministries that are considered to be very useful, very important, okay? There are some ministries that are supposed to be, it doesn't have that strong a role or something like that, but still you have to deliver. So some of the important members in a party, okay, or more senior ministers or the more capable ministers will be given your home ministry, foreign ministry, defense ministry, finance ministry. Certain other ones may not be as much. Okay, so the other body, your cabinet, it exercises the real power. Point number 5, the functions are determined by the cabinet. It directs the Council of Ministers by taking policy decisions. So policy decisions are primarily by the cabinet. right? The Council of Ministers, it implements the decisions taken by the cabinet. It could be, let us say, that agriculture ministry or something like that, but the cabinet itself could probably take a call and be like, hey, these are the things that we want to sort of have done. Okay, we want to sort of double our, like a fishing, whatever it is, the total production. Okay, we want to double that. Okay, marine alone, nahi. Fishing, freshwater also we want to sort of do it. So things like that. Okay, so which of the following are not mentioned in the Constitution of India? Council of Ministers, collective responsibility, resignation of ministers, office of the deputy minister, deputy prime minister.
Option C.
C.
Okay, great. So again, process of elimination, you went with. See, generally for these kind of questions, what I do is first I go with the way my mind works. Council of Ministers, of course, it is there. Okay, collective responsibility, of course, it is there. Resignation officer, okay, okay. And then I bring in this not aspect, and I just sort of. So this is my answer. Okay, so I do this to ensure that I don't make a mistake by skipping a step. Okay, now again, this might be sort of silly for you. It's probably a, if it adds value to the way you do things, then go ahead and do this. See, even in maths, when I do my, problems, okay, numericals, when I solve it, I go through all the steps, okay, until I get my LHS equals RHS. Okay, I don't know, some of you guys may remember this, or this is how we've taught, right? Finally, until you get this thing, there is a whole lot of steps that you have to traverse, right? You can skip a lot of these things and get to this much sooner, but generally, I try to tend to follow these steps to ensure that I don't make a mistake. Just to, okay, so if it adds value, again, just another study habit or something, a pointer for you to utilize. Okay, so consider the following statements and tell me which of these are correct. The president cannot function without the Union Council of Ministers. Okay, point number A. The Solicitor General is the highest legal authority of the Union government. And now we have not covered this yet, but there is the. Okay, let's just keep that. Okay, so Solicitor General. Okay, the Union Council of Ministers can function for some time even after the death and resignation of the Prime Minister. In the absence of the Prime Minister, only the Home Minister can preside over emergency, whatever it is.
Option A.
Option A. So that means you've gone with eliminating your. Which one is? Option A is this. So basically 3, 2, 3, 4. So this is not. Okay, I'm glad that you know, even though we've not discussed this. Okay. And then you went with Council of Ministers can function after some time. Of course, we've just went through this and then it is not. Okay. Only the Home Minister, right? What is, I mean, never. Okay. Laxmikanth mein nahi hai to nahi hai. Okay. So it's incorrect. Okay. So this is good. Okay, according to the Article 74 of the Constitution, which of the following statements relating to the advice tendered by the minister to the president would be correct? It shall not be inquired into by any court. It can be inquired into by the Supreme Court in all the courts. Okay, and it cannot be inquired into by the high courts.
Option A.
Because these things, you might be like, why Supreme Court, why all courts, why cannot, does not matter. But there'll be a statement like this. Generally, the entire statement, if you have the familiarity, okay, directly, this is your answer. Okay. Let me see if I can pick another good question. Salaries and allowances. By the way, salaries and allowances are by the parliament. Okay. Which of the following constitutional amendment acts have made the decisions of the Council of Ministers binding on the President of India? Something we just saw.
Option A.
Option A.
Are you sure that it is 44th Amendment also?
Yes, sir.
So
So when was 44th Amendment?
1978.
1978.
Was it by Indira Gandhi government as well? Remember this, okay? These are some of the two most important amendments. 42nd Amendment, you guys know by now, okay? It's 1976, Indira Gandhi government, emergency and whatnot. 44th, okay, perfectly placed by you chronologically, 1978, okay? And this is by your Janata Party.
Morarji Desai.
Okay, wonderful. Now the idea here, okay, very well put, is to undo or at least try to undo several changes made to the constitution, okay, by the 42nd. However, not everything was changed. Can you tell me one thing that was not sort of changed? Something that was kept. Fundamental duties introduced. 42nd Amendment, right, in 1976, upon the recommendations of which committee, guys?
Swaran Singh Committee.
Swaran Singh Committee.
Swaran Singh Committee. So this was introduced in 1948, and we say that in 1942nd Amendment, sorry, 1976. Did I say 42nd Amendment? Okay. So you know, and we also say that it is like a mini constitution, and all of that, right? But however, once this was introduced, was this taken back? No. Even the Janata Party, this felt that okay, fundamental duty seems to be something that sort of obligates all the citizens to respect the Indian I don't know, the national symbols of India, right? The Constitution of India, to cherish our past, our heritage, okay, the composite culture, okay, to help in render national service, as in assist in its defense, all of these things, okay, common brotherhood, environment ko protect karo, public property ko damage mat karo, right, and scientific temper, all of that, they felt that that is actually good, and so that is kept. But however, it did undo a lot of changes that was made by 42nd Amendment. So I hope that is clear. Okay, which of the articles of the Constitution of India are relevant to analyze the constitutional provisions that deal with the relationship between the President with the Council of Ministers?
Option B.
Option B.
Okay. All right, guys. So that brings us to the close of our video. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you found the video to be useful. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the very next video.